Ho, ho, ho. It's time to review some letters from years past. Dear old Santa, I thought I'd write and tell you what I want for Christmas. But as you are so busy, I don't know whether I will get them or not. I want a pair of high-top shoes and candy and nuts. Oh well, I ain't particular, but I got a sister 2 years old that wants a teddy bear or doll. Goodbye, Santa Claus. Clarence Fleming, Whiting, 6 years old, 1910. Oh, well, he certainly got those shoes and that candy, and his sister certainly got that teddy bear. It's another letter here. Dear old Santa, I'm a good little boy, 6 years old. I bet you are, young man. I go to school every day. Please bring me a watch and an Eversharp pencil for Christmas, candy nuts and oranges. And don't forget my brothers and sisters, and Papa and Mama. Bye-bye. Junior Maple, Rushville, 6 years old, 1922. Oh, I made sure he got that Eversharp pencil. Santa made sure of that. Absolutely. Dear Santa, please bring me a doll with doll clothes, games, card, finger painting set, and molding set. I would like some books and candy, nuts and orange. Remember the poor little children who have no daddy or mother. Thank you. Judy Ann Wright, Evansville, 8 years old, 1948. Oh, Judy, I'm so glad that you mentioned the poor little children who have no daddy or mommy. I make sure to take care of them as well on Christmas. Every child is taken care of by old Saint Nick.
Nestled in the wooded hills of southern Indiana lies a land of fantasy where it's Christmas every day. That place is Santa Claus, Indiana. On this episode, we'll be taking a tour of the oddly named Indiana town that embraces the holiday spirit all year round. I'm Lindsay Beckley, and this is Talking Hoosier History. A note here at the top of the show. We'll be discussing Christmas spoilers having to do with a certain jolly old man in this episode. If you listen with small children, you might want to skip this episode or listen when you're by yourself. Indiana has its fair share of uniquely named towns: Gnawbone, Popcorn, Pinhook, Needmore, and Pumpkin Center, to name a few. But perhaps the most well-known idiosyncratic place name is Santa Claus in Spencer County, Indiana. So, how did we get this intriguing sobriquet? Before we get there, we should cover some of the early history of the area. The Shawnee, Miami, and Delaware tribes first stewarded the land that later became Spencer County. At the turn of the 19th century, many of these tribes joined Tecumseh's Confederation to oppose white encroachment. However, U.S. policy and the treaties of Fort Wayne and Vincennes in 1803 and 1804 opened the land to white settlement. Crossing over from Kentucky, white settlers established permanent homes by 1810 in the Indiana Territory near Rockport on the Ohio River, and soon they spread into the area today called Santa Claus. By the mid-19th century, when settlers decided to incorporate their new town, they didn't originally intend to pay such homage to the Christmas holiday. As with many place names, the origin of the name Santa Claus is mostly the stuff of legend. We do know that the town, made up of primarily German immigrants, was platted as Santa Fe in 1846, but when it came time to establish a post office, it was discovered that there was already a Santa Fe in Indiana, and a new name needed to be decided upon. The letter bearing the disappointing news that Santa Fe could no longer be Santa Fe arrived on Christmas Eve. The villagers traveled through heavy snow to the local church, where they began discussing alternative names. They talked, and they discussed, and they argued, but could find nothing that suited them. Just as hope of finding the perfect name was slipping away, the door swung open, and there stood a man dressed in a Santa suit. This seemed like a sign if ever there was one, and so the townsfolk decided that from then on, their town would be known as Santa Claus.
Wait. I heard this differently. I heard that the villagers were gathered, singing carols on Christmas Eve when the letter came informing them that they would need to choose a different name for the town. In the middle of their discussion, a bright white light flooded the surrounding hills. A little boy ran in, shouting that the Christmas star was falling from the sky. As everyone rushed to see for themselves, a flaming mass shot down from the heavens and crashed into a distant valley. Taking this as a good omen, those gathered agreed that the name Santa Claus was more than fitting.
Well, however it happened, the townsfolk eventually decided on Santa Claus as a replacement name, and the Santa Claus Post Office was officially established on May 21st, 1856. For years, however, the strangely named town was just that, a town with a strange name. It wasn't until Santa Claus postmaster James Martin began answering letters written to St. Nick in the early 20th century that the town began truly embracing its merry moniker. It's unclear when or why letters addressed to the man at the North Pole began arriving at the Santa Claus, Indiana post office, but in 1914, Martin began writing back, and the tradition only grew from there. Mail clerks around the country began rerouting letters simply addressed Santa Claus to the Indiana town for Martin to handle. Parents began writing notes with enclosed letters or packages to be stamped with the Santa Claus postmark and sent back, making those letters and gifts under the tree on Christmas morning that much more authentic. By 1928, Martin and his clerks were, not unlike Santa and his elves, handling thousands of letters every holiday season and were garnering enough attention to catch the eye of Robert Ripley of Ripley's Believe It or Not. Before Ripley's was an after-school TV show, and before it was a coffee table book you bought at the annual Scholastic Book Fair at your elementary school, it was a syndicated newspaper panel that shared interesting tidbits and oddities from around the world. And on January 7, 1930, the oddity in question was none other than Santa Claus, Indiana.
There is a Santa Claus. Santa Claus is a little village in Indiana of 50 people. James Martin, the postmaster, acts as Santa and mailed out 100,000 letters.
It was a brief mention, but it was enough. The next Christmas, Martin reported that the number of parcels and letters coming through his post office had grown exponentially, adding,
I guess my name ought to be Santa Claus, because I have to pay out of my own pocket for handling all this mail. I've hired 6 clerks to help out, and I reckon it's going to cost $200. But it advertises the town, and besides, lots of folks from all around come out to the store and see us sending out the mail.
With great fame comes great scrutiny. Or at least it did in this case. By 1931, the Associated Press reported that officials in Washington were considering changing the name of the town as the stress put on the postal system during the holiday season was becoming too much to handle. Christmas lovers across the country bemoaned the potential loss, but none so loudly as the citizens of Santa Claus, who contacted their congressman, Senator James Watson and Representative John Boehner. Watson and Boehner got to work for their constituents. Representative Boehner notified the USPS that the entire Indiana delegation would oppose the name change if it were to go forward. Senator Watson took a more direct route and went straight to Postmaster General Walter Brown to assure him that
the people won't want it changed. The name must not be changed nor the office abolished.
In the end, of course, the citizens were able to preserve their beloved town's name, and the tradition continued to grow. Entrepreneurs, hoping to cash in on the Christmas spirit, began to take notice of the small town. In 1935, Vincennes speculator Milt Harris founded the business called Santa Claus of Santa Claus Incorporated. Harris erected Santa's Candy Castle, the first tourist attraction in town. Built to look like a fairy castle and filled with candy from project sponsor Curtis Candy Company, the Candy Castle was the centerpiece of what Harris dubbed Santa Claus Town, a little holiday village of sorts made up of his business ventures. The castle would eventually be joined by Santa's Workshop and a toy village. Across town, a different, similarly named business, Santa Claus Incorporated, brainchild of Chicago businessman Carl Barrett, built another Yuletide monument, a 22-foot tall Santa Claus statue purportedly made of solid granite. This colossal Kris Kringle was the start of a second Christmas-themed landmark, this one called Santa Claus Park. All of this in a town of fewer than 100 people. Both attractions were dedicated during the Christmas season of 1935, but all the holiday spirit in the world wasn't enough to keep the peace between Harris and Barrett. The contentions between the two businessmen can be summed up, in short, as a "this town isn't big enough for the two of us" kind of thing. Now, get ready, because there's going to be a whole lot of Santa Clauses being thrown around here. I'll try to make it as clear as possible. By 1935, the town of Santa Claus, Indiana, was home to two organizations, Santa Claus Incorporated, owned by Carl Barrett, and Santa Claus of Santa Claus Incorporated, owned by Milt Harris. Barrett and Santa Claus Incorporated were developing Santa Claus Park, which featured the 22-foot Santa Claus statue. Harris and Santa Claus of Santa Claus Incorporated were developing Santa Claus Town, featuring Santa's Candy Castle. Barrett, Santa Claus Incorporated, filed suit against Harris, Santa Claus of Santa Claus Incorporated, alleging that the latter had no right to use a name so similar to its own. Meanwhile, Harris filed suit against Barrett because Barrett had bought and was building Santa Claus Park on land that had been leased to Harris by the previous owner. Whew! I wasn't kidding about the number of Santa Clauses in these cases. A judge put an injunction on Santa Claus Park, meaning Barrett couldn't move forward with the development. Eventually, this tongue twister of a case went all the way to the Indiana Supreme Court, which ruled in 1940 that both companies could keep using their names and overturned the injunction, meaning that the plans for Santa Claus Park could move forward, regardless of Harris's lease on the land. However, the protracted legal battle combined with wartime rationing, which impacted tourism due to gasoline and tire shortages, took a toll on both attractions. By 1943, cracks ran through the base of the giant Santa statue, and the Candy Castle had closed its doors. But with the end of the war came new opportunities. In 1946, retired Evansville industrialist and father of 9, Lewis Koch, opened Santa Claus Land after being disappointed that the town had little to offer visiting children hoping to catch a glimpse of the jolly man in the red suit. This theme park, reportedly the first amusement park in the world with a specific theme, included a toy shop, toy displays, a restaurant, themed rides, and, of course, Santa Claus. This was no run-of-the-mill Santa Claus, though. This was Jim Yelig. Yelig would become, according to the International Santa Claus Hall of Fame, one of the most beloved and legendary Santas of all time. Yelig had donned the red and white suit at the Candy Castle and volunteered to answer letters to Santa for years before becoming the resident Santa at the new park, a position which he held for 38 years. During his tenure as the jolly old elf, Yelig heard the Christmas wishes of over 1 million children. Throughout Santa Jim's tenure, Santa Claus Land continued to grow, thanks in large part to Lewis Koch's son, Bill, who took over operations of the park soon after its founding. By 1957, the park offered a miniature circus, a wax museum, Santa's deer farm, and an outdoor amphitheater. Live entertainment shows, such as a water ski show, started, and in the early 1970s, rides such as Dasher's Seahorses, Comet's Rockets, Blitzen's Airplanes, and Prancer's Merry-Go-Round were added. And in 1984, the Koch family expanded from a strictly Christmas-themed park to include Halloween and 4th of July sections, and changed its name to Holiday World. Still in operation today as Holiday World and Splash and Safari, the theme park, which features what are considered some of the best wooden roller coasters in the world, welcomes over 1 million people per year. Today, the town of Santa Claus is more Christmassy than ever. Many of its 2,400 residents live in Christmas Lake Village or Holiday Village, on streets with names like Poinsettia Drive, Candy Cane Lane, and Evergreen Plaza. The Candy Castle was renovated and reopened in 2006 and is known for its wide selection of cocos and its frozen hot chocolate. Carl Barrett's 22-foot Santa statue was restored by Holiday World in 2011 and now welcomes tourists from all over the world. Visitors to Holiday World can stay at Lake Rudolph Campground and RV Park or Santa's Lodge. Every Christmas season, the small town comes alive with festivals, parades, and even Christmas fireworks. And of course, dedicated volunteers still answer children's letters to Santa, even if they do sound a little different than they used to.
Ho, 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 ho. Dear Santa, please give me a new mask. Would you give my sisters and brothers gifts, please? How is Mrs. Claus and Rudolph? How are the elves? I hope you have a good Christmas. Love, Lily. Oh, well, Mrs. Claus is just fine, and so is Rudolph, and the elves are working ever so tirelessly to make sure the gifts come to you, Lily, and all the little girls and boys across the world. Ho, 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 ho. Dear Santa, I'd like if you would get me a Hot Wheels Super Ultimate Garage. I have been good. How are things going at the North Pole? I will leave carrots for the reindeer and cookies for you. Have a safe trip. Love, Murray. Oh, Murray, thank you so much for wishing me a safe trip. Things are going great at the North Pole. We're very busy this time of year, but I think we will manage. And I certainly appreciate the carrots for my reindeer and the cookies for me. Dear Santa, I would like a pink cotton candy cutie and 5 surprises. How is Rudolph doing? Is the sleigh ready? I love Mrs. Claus. How are the reindeer? Dear Santa, I want an iPhone. Thank you. From Nixon. Well, I certainly appreciate your brevity. Dear Santa, I am thankful that you let me come to the mall every year. Sorry that I can't come this year. I would like Dear a bunch Santa, of please give me... I sure enjoy the letters from children all around the world. And I just want to say to everyone, Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year.
Once again, I'm Lindsay Beckley, and this has been Talking Hoosier History. Talking Hoosier History is a product of the Indiana Historical Bureau, a division of the Indiana State Library. This episode was researched and written by me, Lindsay Beckley. Sound engineering and production by Jill Weiss-Simmons. Thanks as always to Justin Clark for lending his voice to the show. You can find a full transcript and show notes for this episode by visiting blog.history.in.gov and clicking Talking Hoosier History at the top. Find us on Facebook and Twitter at the Indiana Historical Bureau, and remember to like, rate, and review Talking Hoosier History wherever you get your podcasts. Thanks for listening.
Ho, 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 ho.
Senator James Watson and Representative... I'm going to have to look at that name. 1 second.
You walking by threw me off.
All right.